Well, hello, my friends. As promised, I'm going to sneak in a quick little solo playthrough for you. This is a victory point game called The Hero of Weehawken. Victory point games are very fun little solitaire games, and they tend to have a historical setting to them. Not all of them, but some of them do. And this one is set right around early 1800s, right after the Aaron Burr conspiracy. Now, if you're not up on your history, no problem. It won't affect your gameplay at all. But the setup to the game is that you play as President Thomas Jefferson. All right. Your vice president, Aaron Burr, has just had a duel at Weehawken with Alexander Hamilton, where he kills Alexander Hamilton and ends up fleeing. And so Aaron Burr has fled to the west, and you are left as president to try and figure out what happens next. There's a bit of an element of clue to this game because you don't know what Aaron Burr is up to. You've heard rumors that while he's out in the west, he's getting some co-conspirators and he's hatching a plot. What that plot is, it could be something as drastic as invading Mexico, so trying to break off part of the United States, or perhaps he's just touring with his daughter. Could be completely innocent. And your job is to gather evidence and figure out what he's up to, and if necessary, convict him of any crimes he might be planning on committing. The victory point game. So what makes these games so much fun is there's a lot to do, but you don't have the ability to do it all at once. This is a juggling act, trying to keep all the balls in the air. The board itself is kind of interesting. There's sort of the main board, which is what you play for the first maybe 2/3 of the game, all right? And remember, you're president of the United States. So somewhere out west is Aaron Burr with some conspirators, all right? And they're out here plotting God knows what. You have a few federal agents of your own that you can send out to sort of investigate and arrest people. You also have James Wilkinson, who's what's called the New Orleans track, and he's up to some mischief, so you have to kind of keep an eye on what he's doing. And you have your own political agenda. Remember, you're president, right? So while you're managing all of this, you're also trying to get some progress on your Virginia dynasty, leaving your mark on history. Some judicial reform. You want to make sure that once we arrest Aaron Burr, we're able to prosecute him. And finally, you have your administration agendas, and this is mostly what would you say, becoming friendly with, not friendly, but putting some pressure on Britain. And if we can move up this track, it increases our victory points at the end of the game. So these two tracks help us during the game. This last track achieves more points. All right. You have the wonderful prestige system that victory point game usually uses. So each round, this is how many actions you're able to take, and these will wax and wane as the game goes on. But there's more, all right? This is what you're up to as president. But Aaron Burr is also up to something, and we don't know what that is. And the second board that happens is sort of the AI, all right? So as we play cards, it'll tell us to increase on the track, and we can have events that occur that also get added to this track. And this is the plan. Whatever the plan is, it progresses, okay? And eventually, we reach this bottom level that says rule for launch each Aaron Burr phase. And if we aren't careful and we let the plan progress too far, it will launch. And that has some nasty consequences as well. So this is the first, remember I said 2/3 of the game. Once we find Aaron Burr, once he's located and arrested, we retire these boards and we move on to the trial. This is where it gets a little bit clue-like. We have hopefully gathered evidence and we have an idea of what the man is up to. And we get to decide what we want to try him for. So what do we think he's trying to do? Do we think he's just hanging out with his daughter and resettling? Or do we think he's trying to invade Mexico? Or do we think he's trying to go all the way and either detach the western states or a coup d'etat, which is treason? So we have to decide, based on the evidence we've collected, what his plan is. And then we have to decide, what verdict do we think we're going to get? All right. So if we think he is trying to invade, it's a filibuster, we can say, all right, I think, based on the strength of my evidence, that he's going to be found guilty and be given 5 years. All right. And then we have the trial and we see, one, are we trying him for the right thing? Was he actually trying to do a coup d'etat? And two, were we able to achieve what we set out to do? All right. So this is endgame, this actual trial. And we'll be collecting evidence and kind of building this up as well. But this is the grand finale. Victory point games, the one complaint people have is, of course, the components of the game. They're not the highest of quality. So these little pieces are, they're just little board pieces. The game board, I've glued them onto harder cardstock because they're very flimsy when they arrive. So I like to stiffen them up a little bit. And the one thing I will say about this version of the game, which is a bit bizarre, is that they must have redone, given the game an upgrade, because the game board, I'll show you here, has room for 2 card piles, your draw pile and your discard pile. And you'll notice very quickly that there is no way in heck those cards are going to fit there. So they must have increased the card size, but not the game board size. So this comes up again on, for instance, the progress track. You'll pull cards like the Westerners join, and you're supposed to slide them under there and they would fit perfectly. Yeah, there's no way to make that happen. So it makes the game a little, it isn't as pretty when you're playing it. Things can seem a bit chaotic because the cards don't fit in the slots printed for them. Does that make sense? So I'm guessing they redid the cards and made them bigger. Maybe people were complaining that the font was too small. I'm not sure what happened there. But that is one thing to know about this game. If you're really into the aesthetics of it, it can be a bit disconcerting at first. Once you start to play it, you don't notice it at all. But I will say in the beginning, it did take me a little bit of time to figure out that, yeah, things don't quite fit. Things don't quite fit when it comes to the cards. So, Aaron Burr has fled. He's killed Alexander Hamilton. And we, as president, must locate him and his conspirators and successfully try him for whatever crime they are planning to commit. This is Hero of Weehawken. Let me get it all set up and we can start to play. The first thing we have to do is come up with our conspirators. There's 9 of these in the game. 4 of them are identical. They're all James Wilkinson. The odds are pretty good he's going to be involved in this conspiracy. And the other 5 are other individuals. All right. And to set up the conspiracy, all we're going to do is shuffle these cards and select 3. And these are going to be the people involved. This is where it becomes a little bit clue-like. 1, 2, 3. We're going to take these 3 and slide them onto the conspirator slot. And so at the end of the game, once we're all done, we're going to reveal these 3 and see what exactly is happening. And there's this cool little chart on the back, conspiracy objectives. And when we come to the trial phase, all right, once we've gathered all of our evidence and we have to make a guess on who these 3 cards are, we're going to consult this chart to decide what we're going to try Aaron Burr for. All right, but for now, for setup, we're going to take 3 and place them here. These are our conspirators. The other 6 we're going to shuffle into the deck. Okay, and what this means is as we're drawing cards, if we come across one of these remaining conspirators, then we know they are not involved, and this is the clue part of the game. So if we discover one of these guys during gameplay, then we know he can't be here, except for James Wilkinson, right? Because there were 4 of those cards. So just because we find one in our draw pile, there's still a good chance he could be lurking underneath here. That's all we need to do for pregame setup, aside from putting all the little pieces on the board, but that's pretty self-explanatory. So I don't think I'm going to go through all that. Let's just go ahead and start playing. So let's figure out how many action points, prestige points, we're going to start the game with. And to do that, we just roll a die. Oh, lucky roll. And that's what we start with. So we're going to set ourselves to 6 points. All right. Start of every turn, all you do is draw a card. And like most victory point games, you're going to read the card right here on the left side. You're going to have some wonderful little historical flavor text if you're interested, and then it'll kind of tell you what to do here. All right. So the first thing it says is a 0 with a redraw. Redraw symbols mean the turn immediately ends. You do what this card says, and then you start over drawing another card. So what is this? This is a trial defense card, and it will give the defense 2 evidence points. Now, we do have a choice here. Our witnesses are going to contradict each other, but we can place this card in the defense pile, which means when defense times comes, this is going to hurt us, or we can spend 1 prestige point to reshuffle it. And this means it's not discarded. It might pop up again, but we don't have to play it. +2 evidence is super high. I think it goes from 1 to 3. We have a ton of prestige points, so why not just reshuffle it? I'm just going to slide this down to 5. We're going to reshuffle this card, and because of this little symbol on top, the redraw symbol, there's nothing else we can do. All right, we cannot proceed with our turn. It just ends, and we redraw a card. All right. Let's try this one. Okay, great. Marietta Boats. Oh no. Okay, so we have to decide. We can spend 1 of our prestige points to reshuffle it, or we can let this card come into play and we gain a prestige point. This is going to be added to the Burr Expedition. All right, and the Burr Expedition is going to become stronger. Wow. Let's leave it for now. Let me show you what happens here. We're going to gain 1 point, and we're going to add this to the Burr Expedition. So to do that, we're going to increase the plan progress by 1. All right. And this card, we simply find where it is. Here it is. The boats have now joined, and we are at +1 power or strength. So if this plan launches, when we check for launch, it's going to have a little more strength or possibility that it occurs. Okay, we've done the card. We now get to take our turn. On our turn, we can spend prestige points to take actions. But we do get 1 free action if Aaron Burr has not been found yet. So if we haven't discovered him as a conspirator, we're allowed to work on our presidential track because we have some free time, right? We haven't found him yet. We're not focused on him. We're able to still focus on our presidency. And what you do for this is you have to pick the lowest track. If they're tied, you get to pick, and you get a free roll to try and advance it. To advance it, you simply need to make the roll listed. So let's say we want to increase our Virginia dynasty. We get to do this for free because they're all tied at lowest position. You simply take a die, roll it, and if we roll a 4, 5, or 6, we get to increase our Virginia dynasty. A 4. Fabulous. Bam, let's move that up. The next time we take our free roll, we can't do Virginia dynasty. It's going to have to be one of these 2 because they're now on the lowest position. And the reason we're trying to advance these particular tracks is that they're going to give us some bonuses. So if we get our Virginia Dynasty up, we're going to get an extra prestige points, extra actions every turn. And if we get the judicial reform up when it comes time for trial, when we have to try Aaron Burr at the end of the game, we're going to get a +1 to all of our bonuses. And of course, this is victory points for the end of the game. So what can we do with our prestige points? Well, one thing we can do is we can send an agent to the west if we want to start investigating the conspirators. That will cost points. If we find a conspirator, we could arrest them. That will also cost points. But right now, we're not ready to go into trial, right? If we reveal Aaron Burr, we trigger endgame. We're just starting. So let's not worry about the conspirators. That plan progress, it's barely even budged. For now, let's spend some of our prestige working on these Virginia Dynasty tracks. And let's spend a point, take me down to 5 here, and let's roll on, how about judicial reform? Let's see if we can't knock that up a little. 2, nothing, huh? All right, let's try one more. Give us a 4. Yes, all right, we got a little bit of judicial reform this turn. Next turn, remember, we're going to be able to roll on this guy for free. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. I think we'll end our turn there.